So I'm Steve Croft, and it's a pleasure to be here today with Chuck Bennett, one of the winners of the 2018 Breakthrough Prize in Physics. So I understand your prize is for your work on the WMAP satellite, and I wondered if you could tell us a little bit about how you got into this, when you first found out about the cosmic microwave background, and what did you think about it when you did?
It was pretty early on in my life that I first learned about the cosmic microwave background. I was actually in beginning of high school, and I was reading a book a little bit before school every morning by Isaac Asimov called "From the Universe from Flat Earth to Quasars." And just somewhere in the middle of the book, it mentioned that just recently radio astronomers had discovered an extrastatic radio noise that they believe was coming from across the universe. And there was a little bit of a disclaimer there that, of course, that sounds a little crazy, but might actually be true. And I just thought that was like the coolest thing. And I already had a hobby in electronics and radio sort of things. I worked at a radio TV repair shop, and I had a hobby of astronomy, so that really kind of joined the two things together. And I just decided right then that's what I wanted to study, and sort of kept focused on that throughout.
So what's so important about the microwave background radiation?
Well, if we want to know about our universe, I mean the big picture of our universe, it may seem at first blush like it would be impossible for us to know anything, but it turns out that there's this cosmic microwave background radiation. This is an afterglow from a hot early stage of the universe. And that radiation it's a form of light. It's been traveling across the universe for 13.8 billion years, and it's carrying to us a picture of what the early universe was like. So it's enormously valuable of learning about the history of the universe and piecing together, a model of what the universe is all about. For example. The WMAP satellite has mapped the patterns in this across the sky, and from those patterns we've been able to deduce an enormous amount about the universe.
So the W in WMAP is Dave Wilkinson, who unfortunately passed away before this Breakthrough Prize was awarded. Can you tell us a little bit about Dave?
Yes, right after graduate school, I joined up with NASA specifically to work on a satellite called COBE, the Cosmic Background Explorer, and Dave Wilkinson was one of the founding members of the COBE team. So I had the opportunity to work with him for quite a long time. Towards the end of that mission, it became obvious to pretty much anybody in the field that we needed a follow-up mission, and I had been thinking about paths to do that, and he had too, and so we got together and talked and decided to work together on proposing what was then called MAP to NASA. Our proposal was selected, and when he passed away, I wrote a letter to NASA requesting that they rename the satellite in his honor.
How did you go about putting the WMAP team together?
He and I talked about principles, and one principle was that we wanted a small team. We wanted to be everybody on the team had to really work, and I proposed people, and he proposed people, and we batted them off around, and we had pretty similar ideas, so it wasn't difficult to come up with a core team. Now the core team we came up with was very small, and once the mission was accepted and the work started to multiply, we selectively added people to the team to get the work done, but always with the idea of keeping the team manageably small.
Can you talk us through a typical day managing the construction of the satellite?
Let's see. Yeah, mostly when you look back at things, you have good memories, but I have to say that some of that was pretty tense. So in the very beginning, when we really just started getting going, NASA told me, they wrote me a letter saying, you have been selected to do this, here's your budget. But informally, they took me by the collar and said, don't F up, keep this in budget, make it happen, and all of that. So right away you've got just seemed like an infinite number of things to do, and it seemed like everything was like going wrong, and I'd come home at the end of the day and with a dozen problems, and maybe 2 of them serious, and we'd work through those. And this happened for about I still remember this happened for about 6 months, and it was like I was tight in a knot trying to keep this moving forward. And when I realized that the problems that we were having were not the same problems we were having the day before or the day before that, and I realized that means we're making progress. So I told myself, literally told myself, it's going to be like this the whole way through. There's going to be nonstop problems. We're just going to address them. We're going to get by them. Relax, it'll work. So it was like that. Every day there was a new problem. There was a new issue. But we had a great team of engineers, managers. I had a lot of support in running this, and we just took every problem as it came and figured out what to do and kept moving. And in the end, we finished on schedule and on budget, which is actually a rarity in NASA.
Can you talk us through your feelings at the time of launch?
So launch. I was very anxious to get launched. There was some pressure for the launch slot, and they might give it to somebody else. And I really pushed hard to keep the launch slot. My feeling was the satellite was safer in orbit than on the ground, where people could do something bad to it. Once we knew it was working and tested and everything, I really wanted to get it launched. It's a nervous time. The launch itself, the launch vehicle has to be in good shape. The rocket has to work, and then of course it's shaking the satellite, and there's all kinds of thermal transitions and things like that. So it's a good opportunity to break things. Now, of course, we tested for all of these things, so I had a fair amount of confidence that this would all be okay. But still, it's a nervous time. I was in the control room at the Kennedy Space Flight Center, and with the Air Force and NASA, and there were, again, just like everything else, there were all kinds of problems. There were ships in the range that they had to clear out, and one ship would get cleared out and another would come in, and the weather people were saying, "Oh, we don't know, it's not looking so good. There's thunderstorms to the west," and then we had a crew, part of our team at the Goddard Space Flight Center in Maryland, the NASA center there, and they were having severe thunderstorms. And at one point, just before launch, we lost contact with them. And I was with the project manager, saying, "What do we do now?" Countdown's going on, and we both said launch. So we let at the very last minute they got all the ships out, and I do mean at the very last minute. And the weather people said, "Oh, we have a little bit of a window here if we can launch without any delay." And so everything came together, and we actually launched in the first second of our launch window. So in the end, that all came okay. But of course, I was nervous about how it was all working. I'm inside in a room where I don't actually see the launch, so pretty much everyone got up and ran outside to see, and I was included in that. So I saw the rocket just after it cleared the tower, and heading up, and that looked great. And then my attention turned to the sensitive instrument. The instrument had 240,000 wires put in, bonded by hand, and so we didn't want a single one of those to break. And bonds breaking is a fairly common thing. So my instrument team, or at least some of it, was in a building nearby. So I got in the car and raced over to that building and joined them, and then. We knew the instrument would be turning on soon, and the question is, is everything still alive? Is the instrument going to work? There's a status board on the monitor that for every current and temperature sensor in the instrument, there's a light that's red, yellow, or green. We had set up those limits of how it's concerned to be, and little by little, the instrument doesn't just flick on like a switch. One piece at a time goes on in a certain order, and little by little, we were watching the green lights coming on, And I can't tell you what a sense of relief there was to see those green lights coming on. A block at a time, we're seeing the green lights, and finally the last set come on, and all of the lights are green, and somebody in the room shouted out, "Green board." So I just felt an enormous relief at that point. We had gotten the thing, built, launched successfully. At least at that level, everything was working, and then it was going to be a long haul to analyze science data and get things at a more detailed level. But that was an enormous sense of relief. And it was June 30th, just before the 4th of July weekend. I headed home, and on the 4th of July, I started feeling enormous pain, actually. And in the middle of the night, called my doctor, told me he thought I was having a heart attack, told me to rush to the hospital. We left our kids sleeping at home, and my wife drove me to the hospital. She stopped at red lights on the way at 3 in the morning. I said, "Stop with the red light thing, just keep going." So turned out I didn't have a heart attack, but I did need surgery. And the doctor was just flummoxed of why I didn't see this coming. I kept saying, "Didn't you feel the pain along the way? I mean, it wasn't sudden." I said, "I was busy." So and maybe it almost killed me, but I got it launched. And he just every time I saw him after that, he was like, "I can't believe that you didn't feel any pain before that."
But you ended up with a green light board.
I got a green board, yes, and moved on. So. So we had some tricky maneuvers to do with the satellite to get it to its destination at the second Lagrange point, and I missed the first one of those. But we had a great team. Of course, they could do it without me. I often say I couldn't have done this mission without them, but they could have done it without me.
Well, it's been a pleasure meeting you, and thanks for sharing your experience on the excitement of building hardware that's going to fly in space.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.